campers. I want to discuss 2 years cycles today and talk to you about 2 years cycles because we all operate in 2 years cycles, and I think it's specifically important for those of you who are on some sort of a spiritual journey, whether that's journey of divine journey, a healing journey, trauma healing journey, whatever awakening journey you're going through. I feel this is very important to know your 2 year cycle, when it closes and when it ends. And we're going through a very powerful shift right now, entering the energy of truth, the year of truth, right? So I think it's very important for some of you to understand that. So we operate in 2 years cycles, which means that every person in a different moment of their life. For me, for example, I close my cycle in August, right? So we all gonna have different time. We are gonna have a different moment. That's why it's so important to figure this out. One on a timer. And when we, in every cycle, right, and this will apply to all people, even if you're not on a spiritual journey of healing, of awakening, because every person has something specific that they wanted to achieve, something specific that their higher self and their guides are guiding them towards. So in that cycle of 2 years, you will have a specific thing, challenge, trauma, shadow that your soul will want you to work on. So your soul will guide you towards certain people, situations, challenges, experiences to give you the opportunity to overcome that thing, right? And in that 2 year cycle, also, you can have smaller lessons as well. We all operate in monthly cycles, in moon cycles, in Mama Gaia cycles, in our own personal cycles, especially if you're a female. That's very important. But within that big 2 year cycle, we're going to have smaller ones. But in that big cycle, we're sort of going to be navigating towards that thing, that key thing that our soul wanted to overcome. So we're going to be receiving lessons again in different settings with different people in different scenarios about that specific thing that we want to overcome. Sometimes it can be a specific karma that we need to clear, right? And at the end of this cycle, the moment comes. That's why I always say that it's my favorite quote. It's always darkest before the dawn, because at the end of this cycle, they're gonna test us. Are you ready? Have you really learned? Have you really processed this lesson? Are you ready for us to grant you access to another key, to grant you access to another cycle? Are you ready to ascend? Are you ready to grow as a person? Or do you have to repeat the cycle? And many of us will repeat many cycles throughout our lifetimes, right? But that's why those lessons at the end of that big cycles are so important. Those tests, those moments of review, because in the end, there's no rush. It's not a competition. Source is just trying to see, are we ready to progress and learn another lesson, or do we have to repeat in a different scenarios? And that's why I don't want to use the word fail because it's pejorative and we never actually fail. But if you're not ready to close that cycle, every next cycle for that specific thing will be more difficult. So perhaps you found yourself in a situation, to give you an example how it works, that you've been in a karmic relationship, you wanted to leave that person, and you started having problems, right? And you decided, no, we'll push through, we'll try, we'll give it a try. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to start over, da. And then if this is your karmic person, you entered another cycle with this person, and you're literally not going to have challenges every single day, but that next cycle is going to be bigger, it's going to be stronger, it's going to be more intense, because source wants you to learn certain lessons. So if you haven't managed to learn these lessons in that first cycle, they're going to put you a little bit like on an intenser sort of a vibration, so you can really learn, really see, and really recognize. So it's important to know your cycle. Sometimes when we are on a, I believe, my universal truth, that people who are spiritually awakened, it maybe it will be a bit easier for you to, you know, recognize that cycle, because if we have that awakening boom, obviously this is where your cycle starts. So if you're, for example, on a twin soul journey, that meeting of your twin, especially for the feminines, will be the opening of your cycle, right? For the masculine, it can be a little bit different. But those of us who are on a journey of spiritual awakening, again, it doesn't mean what kind of journey, but you are conscious, you're doing the work, you're doing shadow work, you're contemplating, you're expanding your self-awareness, your consciousness. You will have more than just one lesson in that cycle. Obviously not going to be going through, because we do go through sort of a crash course, right? Because we do the work, because we push ourselves, because we can, because we've chosen a life time of awakening, right? And another thing that I want to mention, that we don't oftentimes attend one thing in one cycle. So if you have something that is really, really intense, let's say you have a father wound or a mother wound to heal, it's not like Source is going to give you 2 years to heal that and then, oh, you didn't manage, so you have to repeat. It's the bigger wounds, the bigger shadows, the bigger traumas are sort of divided into layers. That's why I always say, and a lot of spiritual people, healers, shadow workers, that we heal in layers. Because when you deal with something like avoidance, anxiety, mother wound, father wound, abandonment wound, you cannot heal that in one go, right? You cannot just sit and I'm going to heal it. So for let's say for those first 2 years, your task will be to realize that you have, let's say, father wound, to understand what it means and to start addressing the surface layer, right? And then if you do that, you're going to move to another cycle, 707, expand, you're going to learn, and you're going to continue to heal the next layer of that father wound. And some wounding, some shadows, some traumas, they will require several cycles for us to go through, and it's absolutely okay. If you are in a specific journey, it's going to be a bit easier for you. So all my divines, for example, if you look back since the moment you met your divine counterpart and you step onto that journey, if you look back, you've been on this journey for 4 years, for 6 years, you would kind of notice that every 2 years we're different, that your dynamics also change. And that's also another indication that you actually are on a twin flame journey. I always talk about this when I teach people and help people to understand, because many people think that it's it and they're actually in a karmic connection. Because on this journey we grow constantly. It's impossible to be on a divine journey, twin soul journey, and look back 4 months, 6 months and not see a completely different person. Sometimes it's subconscious. On the level of the masculine, it's happening in a bit of a different way, right? It's not this external change, but internally, and things that we overcome every couple of months. We're going to look back and we're going to grow and we're going to expand. But if you are on any kind of spiritual journey, if you figure out your cycles, you really see that growth and you really see that expansion. And right now we're at this important moment, right? This is why I mentioned to you that I feel that for many of my collectives, that moment of that closing of 2 year cycle, it's either now or in the next couple of months. Because what we're going through collectively those weeks right now, it's really hitting the spot of our most resistant shadow and wounding and trigger from the previous cycles, because they're really wanting you to close it, because this is that big cycle, right? So for me, those recent weeks, they've been showing me something that I cannot carry within me until August, because in August my cycle will close. And if I want to continue to grow and to expand and not repeat that cycle, I really have to work through that thing, right? So this moment of now is very important for you to realize, what is that for you? What is it that you don't want to carry? So figure out your cycle. It's very helpful. on your healing journey, on the journey of growth, on the journey of progression. I hope this was helpful. And as always, if you have questions, let me know.